Hello everyone, welcome back. We thought we'd do a bit of a fleet tour of all the vehicles we have, because between us we have quite a collection. Starting off with probably one of the OG trip cars, along with Mike's OG trip car. This is a Seat Leon. I bought it for £150 with a dead engine, so I put in a different engine in it, but it hasn't actually been used since September, this one, since we come back from Germany. As you've seen the trip, Mike actually put a ring lap on with the Clio. It's just the same journey this one went on. It's also been to Scotland, it's been to the NC500, it's been to Switzerland, it's been everywhere. So we thought we'd come here, start him up, pull him out and have a look at it. It's not actually been started since September. The battery's not even been charged or anything, so it's going to be quite interesting to see if it starts, comes out on its own power, if there's any gremlins in it really.
Volkswagen's our shit.
Oh yeah. What is this? I've become deceiving everyone. No more, no more, no more. Let me be a fighter, fighter. When your back's against that wall, you're walking on a wire, wire. Oh, about to take that fall, I'll be drawing all the fire, fire.
On the button.
Last side on the button. It's pretty reliable. I mean, we pulled it out, the engine was come from an A3 that we scrapped. Back, 4 years ago, which I took it out, refreshed it slightly, nothing rebuilt really, just refreshed, new belts, new everything. I've done all of the deletes on it as well. Big up Andy from Birmingham, who's tuned it for us to produce some decent power. It runs really well. I say the engine bay is a lot more simplified than it usually is with the 1.8T, but it runs absolutely spot on. If we're talking stage power, this is stage 2, loosely.
What's stage 2 these days?
240-ish brake. She's got a front mount intercooler, she's got a few other bits. It needs a bigger intake on it, but all things to do. Obviously, she runs the bonnet pins as well.
Talk us through this pipe work.
So I used to run the elephant mod trick, so the actual catch can run down under the gearbox and out. But this year I tried to do it slightly differently, run it back into the PCV system, so I'm unconvinced at the moment, so I've left it long enough where I can run it back under the car if I need to.
So this is why we've got this
elephant trunk.
We've got this big elephant trunk
Yeah,
going on here.
yeah. But she's running on coilovers, she's pretty low. She's running on Cooper R18s, genuines, with some spacers all round. She's 15 at the front and 20 on the back. Yeah, the curbing was an optional extra it come with. But it's all got all four caps on the side skirts, which is quite rare with these things. She's a bit pink in areas, I think.
How much you pay for it?
£150. £150 this car cost me. Probably owes me slightly more than that now, but not horrifically more. She's got the nice juicy exhaust where she spat some grapes out in the Scotland video.
With a nice bit of soot marks up there.
Yeah.
Also, Jack put a towing point on the back.
Oh yeah. That was there before we went to Germany. I got a spare one in the other garage, I think. Got spare bumpers. But she's pretty stripped out inside.
The walkie-talkie's still there.
Yeah. It's hard mounted, it won't go anywhere. So she's got the passenger side, so as you can see, the bucket seat on the passenger side is actually raised up. So that's when we went to Germany last, we took the boys. So that's when my boy had a bit of height to see. Just running on box section. And if we were on the passenger side, this is actually, the muffins are still there from September as well, actually.
Oh, muffin. What's the best before day on that?
Maybe September sometime.
Like
October.
October 2022, they still good, I reckon.
So this is actually from an MX5. It's the inside of an MX5 dashboard. So
It's a glove box, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I can switch all my, if you see my gauges switch on down there with doing that then. Putting it on there.
Oh, yeah. Lights.
So you can see oil pressure comes up on there.
There you go, your
Glued in, walkie-talkie mount so it doesn't move anywhere.
Is that Evan's dash?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she's pretty good, really. I love it. Absolutely love it to bits. It takes a thrashing and it just goes. It's reliable. It runs great. I also, funny fact, we were rushing to go to Germany, and I had my front tyres changed, and I left my what are they called? Tyre pressure monitors on the floor in Riska.
Oh, yeah.
So I've only got 2 on the back, so I can tell my rear pressures. But I absolutely love this car. It sounds great. It goes great.
So what's that? I've been starting since
September, since we got back from, so we got thrashed around Germany all the time. Drove all the way home, parked it straight in the garage, and it hasn't moved since. Disconnected the battery.
you had an issue around the ring as well, didn't you?
I misfired when I came out of the last carousel on one of my laps.
It was quite a misfire though, was it?
It was a heavy misfire.
Well, why was there a misfire?
Well, when I got back, I tested all my coil packs out and everything, thought that was all great. Didn't realise I didn't bolt down my injector cups under here. So one of them has got an odd screw out of something else, because that one isn't even going. Because this had popped out and the injector was just
so
loose.
It was a misfire, but it was actually a misfuel
Misfuel. There was 0 fuel going into cylinder 4.
because somebody forgot to put.
Yeah, that was my bad. But nice, I love this car. It's one car I'll probably never ever sell.
That's right.
More power, bigger turbo, a bit more of a tidy up, and it needs a head rebuild really, I think. She gets a bit blue smoky now and again. But it's really random how it blows blue smoke now and again, so I want to build an actual engine for it anyway, so I've got another engine at home, which I want to build for it, so I'm going to throw a fully built engine in and then refresh this engine for my Audi, and then take the Audi one out and put that on the Golf, I think, so that's the plan. But she's my baby. I love it. Disconnect this till next time, though. Hasn't been started since, what, 2018? No, 2020. I bought it in 2018. And it hasn't been started since then, so it's looking a bit rough. Jesus, I forgot about this. I proper mullered that in Scotland, didn't I? And the scratches, yeah. Right, let's see what we're working with. There she is in all her glory. 1.8 litres of Japanese madness.
Really good of you to leave the plugs disconnected.
Yeah. I think probably that's from where I last tried to crank it and I didn't want to start it because there's reasons why this has stood since 2020. One of them being it needs some sills and potentially a rear arch or two. And there was a pretty bad vibration coming from it when I was in Scotland that I put down to polybush in the engine mounts. But it turned out to be something minor, like a really severe crank wobble. So nothing major, like. But I don't know whether it's a bent crank or whether it's just coming from the crank pulley itself. So that's something that I do need to investigate. Good to see that my very professionally homemade heat shield has made it. That took far too much effort to look that shit. But it did the trick, so seemed to run a lot better with it than without it, than with just the hot air intake next to the heat shield of the manifold. So yeah, I've got, I don't know if there's a battery in it actually, but I'll just go and get the Noco. There is a battery in it. I've just hooked the Noco up to it. The battery is very professionally installed, as you might be able to see. It's clamped down through sheer willpower, I think. And just praise, but it's in. Should we mention how this car and my car are really affiliated? So from Scotland, was it in Bradford, your slave cylinder giver? Slave cylinder went on it. So the clutch was driven home, the car was driven home from Bradford. With no clutch, yeah. And if you had to do a hill start, it was my Leon. It was both my handbrake and my clutch at the same time. It gone, isn't it? So it was my Leon that had to start you off on any hills. No, what I meant was I had to use your Leon as a handbrake. Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And my front mount, considering I cut most of my crash bar away, was taking the front of that. But it did well, though. It got me going. It got me going, for sure. Right, let me just make sure I can get power to this. See if we can get any dash lights. Right, that's the Noco on. Can you see any dash lights in it? Oh, we got dash lights. It's out of gear. Coils are undone. Should we give her a crank? See what we can get? Well, that's a good connection from those. That's a good connection from those. Oh, they're not even plugged in. I think you've got somewhere to just rest in, so it must be a jumping spark. Oh, Jesus. Oh, well. A jumping spark to fire. Let's plug the coils back in and see if we can get it to run. Yeah, they're not plugged in. How the? It must just be enough transfer that you can jump it. Oh, are these those newfangled Bluetooth HT leads? I think that's plugged in. 2 years this hasn't started, and I wanted to go straight away, didn't it? That's the Noco turned off, so that's running under its own alternator. Is that wobbling? I don't know if you can see that with a refresh rate. I'll try and slow it down. I think I did the entirety of the Scottish trip in 2020 with a crank. Because I thought it was down from when I installed my engine mount bushes, but it was actually, I think, because of that crank wobble, which is pretty bad. We got to test the only reason that people buy these cars. We got to test that that's still working. I'm happy now, I don't care about the crank wobble, my headlights still work. So I'll let that get up the temperature a bit, but... So I bought this car in 2018, where did we find it? On Gumtree? In 2018, well, Craig found it on Gumtree in 2018, and it was up for sale for 500 quid. I'd already had a... That sounded... Think maybe I should turn it off. bit better. Yeah, you can feel the vibrations, like. Yeah, I bought this car in 2018. Craig found it on a Gumtree ad for 500 quid in, was it Bristol way, was it? Yeah. I already had one at the time, then I had a red one, an early Japanese import, 1.6 that was, on a H plate. So, which needed some work. So we jumped in the car and I phoned them, got some information about it, some old deer selling it.
Why was it cheap?
Oh, it was
Why was
cheap.
it cheap?
The reason it was cheap, it was listed because the timing belt had failed. And I've had a fair few MX5s, and I know that these are non-interference engines. For those of you who know, for those of you who don't, they're non-interference engines. If you don't know what that means, it means that the pistons and the valves don't occupy the same space at the same time. So if the timing belt does fail, it doesn't grenade the engine. So they were selling it cheap because they thought the timing belt had snapped and they thought they needed a new engine. So I phoned them up, put a deposit on it, and went down a couple of days later, severely hungover from memory.
Getting a new car for me, another MX5. Glad to the collection.
Glad to the collection. This one's a green one.
To go and pick it up, and we brought it back. And whilst I was waiting to pick it up, I did some research on it because there was a couple of weird things about it I hadn't really seen on other MX5s that I'd owned. And it turns out it's a Japanese import, VR limited. One of 500 ever made for the Japanese market only. God knows how many of them, or how little of them, got imported to the UK. I know that there's probably a handful about in the UK, and it's worth probably a little bit more than 500 quid. So we got it home. Craig and I slapped a new timing belt on it. Not even a new tension or a water pump, did we? No. Which came to bite me back in the arse for the Swiss Alps trip when my water pump failed, and it started fired up straight away. So I'm well happy with this bargain.
We've actually done the collection on video, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got it on a potato cam, haven't we?
Drink here, Mike.
But yeah, it did the 2018 Rotbox Rally to the Nürburgring, which we haven't filmed because it'll give Mick a nervous breakdown if we recall that memory. It did the 2019 Swiss Alps trip, and it did the 2020 NC500 trip, and it's sat there ever since. The 2022 trip I did in the A3, which we'll probably do in another video. Plans-wise, I need to do that crank wobble, and I need to do some bodywork to it. It probably needs a respray as well. So I do want to get it out at some point. But for now, I'm quite happy for it just staying nice and warm in the garage. Come down every once in a while, start her up. You know, every 2 years, we'll start her up. That seems about the going rate these days. And yeah, we'll get it going. But yeah, this is not one to be getting rid of. I'm happy to just keep it in the garage for the time being. So that's the MX5. Started on the button. It started when I didn't even want it to start, which is, what's this now? 1996 this is, so 27-year-old car. It's got about 112,000 kilometers on it, I think. So not much in it at all. But that's where we are. So we're gonna get it tucked back up now for another day, but I'm happy that it started. I'm happy that I've got it. And I'm happy that I can still use it one day once I've got some work doing to it. And that'll probably be a good series to bring to the channel, actually. Right, good night, old girl. Until we meet again. Security bag. Hope you've all enjoyed this video. We've got plenty more of this to come. We've got a pretty big fleet between the two of us, and on screen is just a selection of what you can expect to see in upcoming fleet videos. Lots that haven't been run for a while, lots that will probably need a bit of finessing to start. So thanks for watching, stay tuned. Please consider subscribing and liking, it really, really does help us out. Cheers, guys.